noted artist, author, and healer. He's devoted his life to exploring and communicating the language of the heart, primal movement, and deep inner spaces. Over the past 26 years, he has taken thousands of people on a journey from physical and emotional inertia to the freedom of ecstasy, from the chaos of the chattering ego mind to the blessed emptiness of stillness and inner silence. Today's inspiring mind is Ernesto Ortiz.
Thank you so much, Adam. It's a pleasure to be here with you.
Yes, we're here in some challenging times, going through this particular aspect of our transformation. I think it's an interesting concept to think
Okay.
about.
What I feel is that we humans are here on borrowed time, so to speak. The earth is here permanently, and we have inhabited this beautiful planet for a very, very long time, hundreds of thousands, millions of years. And little by little, we have increased the amount of use of the earth, of the land, based on population. And unfortunately, the majority of the population of this planet has been or is completely and totally unconscious. When we arrived at the point in our lives in the 1930s, when the industrial revolution began, then materialism and consumerism began at its fullest force. And from that point on, we have abused and misused depleted natural resources, have created tremendous amount of imbalance in the oceans and the rivers and the lakes, polluted every single aspect of this land. We have raped the land with mining all over the world. We have clogged up all the arteries of flow of water with plastic. We have killed hundreds of thousands of animals, eliminated many species that now are completely extinct. So basically, we have abused this planet to such a degree that it is inevitable that the certain laws, natural laws, come back to us. One of those laws is the law of karma. And as we do, we receive, as you plant, you reap. And what we have planted is this abuse. And the earth seeks balance all in itself. And to me, part of or all of that we are experiencing with the COVID-19, the pandemic, etc., it's just simply the earth pushing back and saying, hey, you are raping me, you're abusing me, you're killing me, and you are doing absolutely nothing about it. And this is the way in which the earth is kicking back.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it's been a challenging time for many people who have had I assume the amount of time, if they chose to go inward, to refocus their lives and look back on, or look inward and seek uh, their inner world and see if there's been any development that's been taking place. And for many people, it's been pretty uncomfortable to have to go through this time and actually feel those specific feelings. I know for myself, it's been a challenge for me. It brought me back to conflicts that I thought I could escape by just running into the outside world. But with this particular time, it's definitely challenged me to face a lot of my own personal anxieties and challenges.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, I believe that people that are waking up, everywhere in the planet or have already awakened, are beginning to feel or to recognize precisely what you are talking about. But unfortunately, we're still facing the sad reality that many, 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 many hundreds of thousands of people are still embracing the old mentality, the reptilian brain, the patriarchal dominated world that is plagued with ambition and with difficulty and war and all of that. And these individuals, instead of beginning to wake up, have created far more problems that we had before. So domestic violence has increased tremendously. Abuses of all kinds have increased tremendously. And so this is sad, but at the same time, there are hundreds of thousands of individuals that are beginning that waking up process. And, I hope that is like the 100 monkey effect, that little by little, those of us that are either awake or beginning the awakening process can influence in a positive way those that are beginning to wake up or that are not waking up, but we can point the way saying, hey, take a look what's going on inside, and the reflection of what is within is without.
Yeah. So for example, in a time like this, as we just mentioned, the pressure to change is more readily available. But looking at your particular life, which was years ago when you went on this path, if you could just segment into the story of where this your path began and how your transformation began to put you on this specific path.
Oh, wow. Well, my path began when I was very young, 7, 8 years old. I was very lucky to have been born in a very well to do family in Mexico City. And my family owned banks and movie theaters, real estates, and they also own coffee plantations in the state of Veracruz in Mexico. So whenever we had time off from school, vacations, etc., we went to the finca, to the ranch. And the first thing that I wanted to do, instead of going inside the house and learning how to play chess with my cousins, I just kicked off my shoes and went to be outside with the workers. And at first they accepted me because I guess I was the son of the owners. But as time went by, they saw a genuine interest on their lifestyle and their way of being. To me, it was a beautiful opportunity at that early age to begin to see the duality between the world of richness and the world of avarice and greed, because that's what they wanted. And also the opposite, which was the very simple way of Mexican mysticism and shamanism. I didn't know at that time what it was, but that is what I was exposed to. So by the time I was 8, 9 years old, I was fully integrated into the life of this group of people. And they were doing shamanic ceremonies. I didn't know what it was, but the man or the woman, there was an elderly couple that were like the shamans of this large group of field workers. And they came to me with herbs and smoke and alcohol, and were beating me with the herbs and blowing the smoke and the alcohol. And I'm going, oh my God, what is this? I don't know what this is, but I like it.
Yeah.
And when I was 11 years old, something very specific happened, which was the shaman using an egg on the body of this woman. He was working around her neck, down her armpits, and maybe I've seen before, but did not register. But at that particular point, it did register. And when this man cracked the egg, what came out was black, 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 like molasses.
Mm.
And at that particular point, I said, wow, I don't know what that is, but I want to learn how to do it. And that type of affirmation from the mind of an innocent child was so powerful, I guess, that the doors began to open sometime after that. So by the time I was 16, I was fully exposed to Mexican shamanism and mysticism. Uh, as I continued to immerse myself with this group of people, they opened my third eye to start seeing beyond ordinary reality, to begin to see the extraordinary reality of Mexican mysticism and folklore, which was so incredibly beautiful. So by the time I was, 17, I knew that I did not belong in the family that I was born into, that I had a clear sense or vision of these two different worlds. And I told my mom when I was 17 that I was leaving my house. And she said, well, where are you going? I said, I don't know. I want to go and explore the world. And she tried to bribe me with money and trips to Europe, etc. I told her, I'm not for sale. And in fact, I'm going to divorce you. And that just came to a big shock to her to hear those words, because she said, you cannot divorce me. I'm your mother. I said, well, I'm doing basically the same thing that you did to my father. And then that was the moment in which I left my house, and then I started searching on my own way for what I was looking for. And what I was looking for and continue to look for is to truly, truly know the essence of who I am. Who am I?
Right.
And what makes myself think the way that I do? What are the beliefs that are present in my life? Do they suit me or don't suit me? So the belief of having a lot of money in the way that they were creating their wealth did not suit me. So I just really had from a very young age I guess the great karma to be able to discern and to see, this two different worlds. And I chose the world of mysticism, the world of magic and beauty, and a deep connection with nature and the divine. And my path has taken me in many different paths over the past many, many years. And that is basically what gave me the opportunity to begin walking the path that I've walked this life.
Interesting. It seems as if like you were put into the, or you chose this particular path in order to have the dichotomy of wealth and a true understanding of your own soul's purpose, and to have parents that were on a material level. It forged you to actually probably to delve deeper into yourself, to uncover yourself in some capacity. But what I like to mention is you've studied many modalities, as you mentioned, but one of them, as we will discuss today, which is probably the most significant one, has been the Akashic Records.
Yes,
And I'm familiar with the Akashic Records myself, and I've used it as a tool to dig deeper into my own soul's journey and path. And I actually read your book years ago, and it put me on the path to having a deeper understanding of that connection.
very cool.
So, yeah, for me to talk to you is inspiring about this particular subject. And what I wanted to know is, why did you find it to be the most profound work for yourself? I think you might have mentioned.
Um, because it has given me the opportunity, or gave me the opportunity, to completely and totally reinvent my life. About 26 years ago, a big hurricane came through Miami, Hurricane Andrew, and that hurricane completely devastated my life. I had three retail businesses in crystals, jewelry, visionary art, etc., and they were completely wiped out. My home was completely destroyed, and I found myself living in my car, for about 2 weeks. So in a way, prior to that, about 3 months before, my mother had died. So it was a very powerful time in my life that put me face to face with my own inner truth and inner reality. And it pushed me into the exploration of the dark night of the soul. And if anyone has experienced that, you know that it's almost as if you are in this cave where everything is completely and totally black with no way out. And for me, the guiding light, the point that guided me towards coming out of the cave and gave me the means to start restructuring the totality of my life, has been my connection with the Akashic Records. So to me, I am my own living proof of how the guidance that we can receive from the Akashic Records can completely and totally transform your life.
Yeah. If somebody was overhearing a conversation about the Akashic Records and never heard of it, how would you best describe it, to make it understandable or comprehensible to them?
Well, we can talk only about the Akashic records, but the Akashic records are only a small portion of Akasha. So maybe we want to start exploring the word Akasha and then begin to reduce it to have the understanding of what the Akashic records are.
Okay.
So if that is okay with you, then, Akasha is a Sanskrit word that means primary or primordial substance. So what that means is that all substances that exist everywhere in the universe took birth out of Akasha. So at a scientific point, from the scientific point of view, now we have the validity or the understanding that there is a field that exists everywhere in the universe that is very dense, and it moves very slowly from past to present and will continue into the future. And the function of this field is to record information out of the output of energy of every living organism, and everything is alive in the universe. So I called Akasha the membrane that wraps around every single cell inside of our body, as well as every single object that is in the world and the universe. So this is that substance that holds everything together in the universe, and it's also recording the information that we are, or every living organism is giving. Okay, so that's a big, 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 immense picture that, in honestly, I cannot completely understand it myself. It's just
Right.
way too
Right.
big. So from that universal way of looking or viewing Akasha, we can reduce it down to a way in which we can more understand it. And that will be the energy output of our Mother Earth. So the earth in itself is producing a vibration constantly, and that vibration is being recorded in Akasha. So we can say that the world, the earth, has Akashic records based on all of the energy outputs that the earth has given from the time of its inception to the present time. Now, from the world, we can reduce it one more time to cultures. And we can see the different cultures from around the world. We can see the conflicts that have existed for hundreds of years with some of the Middle Eastern cultures, etc. So, and the French culture, the Spanish culture, the Black culture, all of them have a very unique imprint based on the output of energy that we have given Akasha from the energetic point of view. Now, from cultural Akashic records, we can reduce it one more time to family Akashic records. And this is where it begins to really get interesting, because we can clearly see the dynamics that exist between family members, the karma that many of us have to
Yeah.
deal with, and everybody has to deal with family karma, and the dynamics of it. So the family as a whole, as it's been moving from one generation to the next and to the next and to the next, has created Akashic records for that family. And they have been following us from past to present, and they will continue to the future. So now from family, we can reduce it one more time to our own individual Akashic records. So our own individual Akashic records are the recordings of our soul's evolution from the time of the soul's inception to the present moment. So all of our lifetimes have been recorded in the Akashic records from the imprints that we have left behind. So today we are living or experiencing the sum total of all of our lifetimes in the now. So the Akashic records can show us with clarity what we have created in the past, how we are dealing with our lives in the present, and how to create the best possible direction to take into the future.
Yeah. Very, very interesting concept. It's almost as if a ripple effect from our own personal energy rippling out to that field. And then I guess in terms of the reading those ripples in terms of a hologram, either through hearing, sound, vision, whatever the person is able to comprehend or perceive. In terms of understanding the Akashic record on a scientific level, I know that there's been an understanding in 2014. I believe Irvin Laszlo had a conference in Milan that tied the scientific world together with this mysterious field. and maybe you could just you could fill us in on that particular event.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Professor Irvin Laszlo is a fantastic scientist. He's got written numerous books on Akasha, not so much the Akashic records, because he views Akasha from the scientific point of view and not so much from the mystical, or the metaphysical, spiritual point of view. I have had the great opportunity to be twice with Professor Laszlo in the same space, doing a symposium in France, and great opportunity to talk with him from the spiritual point of view of the Akashic records, while he was validating everything for me from the scientific point of view. Anyway, in 2014, there was a scientific symposium in Milan, Italy, where he pooled a lot of scientists, quantum physicists, etc., from all over the globe. And basically they come down to the acknowledgement of the recognition that there is that field that exists everywhere in the universe that is very thick and moves at a very slow speed of 0.0000001 speed or something like that, from the past to the present, and will continue into the future. They also said that this field is accessible, and they have proven how mystics, shamans, visionaries, um, uh, some psychics have the ability to enter into this field almost as if you jump into a pool. And once you are in this pool, then you can go or swim in every possible direction that you want. So that is basically the same ability that we have. Maybe we don't have the capacities of a shaman or a mystic, but we have a sacred prayer that was given to us by the Mayas that gives us the access to the Akashic records or the Akashic fields, so we can have from within an exploration of the same.
Yeah. And speaking of this, the prayer, which is actually what you just said, is a vote of like a vote of confidence for that particular aspect of understanding it, and making it for a person who can't gather the spiritual side of it, but could see it through a scientific viewpoint. You mentioned a prayer. Where did the prayer originate, and what does it address specifically?
Okay, there was a Spanish man from Czechoslovakian descent. His name was Johnny Pershenska, that started having a reoccurring dream. And the recurring dream was that he was walking down a cobblestone street late in the day, and then he saw an old Indian woman standing by that door, and the dream ended right there. Years later, this man found himself walking around the streets of Mexico City. It was late in the day, walking down a cobblestone street where he passed a door that was open and an old Indian woman standing right by the door. So he realized that he was actually living his dream. So he went back and talked with this woman, and the woman told him, yes, this is the way that I have been calling you, and you have been chosen to receive a sacred prayer that will forever change your life. However, receiving this prayer will carry a great amount, a great deal of responsibility. Are you willing to take that? So Johnny says yes. Then they went to the pyramids of Teotihuacan. They climbed to the top of the pyramid of the sun, where there were 5 other elders. The Indian woman went to stand right next to the high priest. She shapeshifted in what I see as a younger, beautiful princess. So we have 6 directions, the different elements, the yin and the yang, the male and the female, all of that. And the high priest asked the same thing to Johnny. And when Johnny says yes, then a flame appeared above his head. He collapsed that flame, and when he collapsed the flame, a gold piece of paper appeared in his hand where the prayer was written in the Mayan language. Wow. Then he took that and pushed it down into Johnny's crown. And then from that point, Johnny started, went back to the United States, started teaching the Akashic Record prayer. So the Akashic Record came from the Mayan tradition in the way that we have it right now. And it was given to Johnny Proshenska. Then Johnny gave it to a lady named Mary Parker. She was Johnny's helper and a student. And then at some point, a friend of mine learned the Akashic Records system. She opened my Akashic Records. 3 years later, I contacted Mary Parker and I went to be with her, and she became my direct teacher. So the lineage that I follow and I do respect in every culture, in the Buddhist tradition, the Tibetan tradition, the Hindu tradition, the importance of the lineage. So the way that I teach the Akashic Records is very closely related to the original source of energy. It was Johnny, Mary, then Denise, but then I went over Denise to become a direct student with Mary. And the Akashic Record prayer was translated from Mayan to Spanish, from Spanish to English, and from English to French, and many, many other languages. So what the prayer does is, when we read the prayer in the way that is taught, what the prayer does is creates a mental frequency or vibration that gives us the ability to fine tune to higher frequencies or energies that we are not capable of perceive in the way that we are sitting just here right now.
Right.
So let's say that we are vibrating right now at 200 watts, so from 200 watts, which is right here, and above there, 300, 500, 1,000, 10,000 watts to infinity. But we can only perceive or connect to that which is calibrated to our own frequency and vibration in the now. So if we have a means of increasing that frequency from 200 to 400 or 500 watts, then from 500 watts to 200 watts, there's a whole realm of information that we can experience and explore about anything that we want in the world. If we continue cultivating our mind, which is what the key of the whole thing, is the cultivation of the higher frequencies of the mind, to get away from the dense carbon self and to awaken the crystalline body. So once that crystalline body, which is directly connected to the mind, is fully awakened or in the process of awakening, those 200 watts not only go to 400, but they can go to 800 or 1,000 watts. And everything that we can perceive, see, or do between the 200 and the 1,000 watts is a whole world that is within and without, that is available for us to explore.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I mean, for the person, for the layman who's never opened up the records and has never done this, it's an interesting road to travel in, to find that soul purpose, that soul energy, and that whole eighth chakra, as you, I think, described, going from the eighth chakra to the seventh chakra. But many of the people who already are accessing the Akashic records sometimes meet interference in terms of accessing the information that they seek to find with their questioning. And maybe you could describe some patterns of interference that take place when a person does access the Akashic records, or what that actually is.
Oh, there are so many patterns of interference that's why I truly recommend that if anyone really wants to understand the Akashic records, that they take a class with someone that is truly qualified. There's so many people that are teaching the level 1 and the level 2 in a weekend. And to me, that's just such a disservice to this system. I teach the level 1 class over 4 days. Just imagine the amount of information. And I love to talk about this, right? Yeah. And then the level 2 class is over 5 days. So, there's so many patterns of interference. Patterns of interference is anything that at all that can be either internal or external that will keep you from making that connection to Akasha. Patterns of interference can be fragmented pieces of the soul, and every one of us, if you have ever experience trauma in your life from mild to severe. At the moment or at the peak of the trauma, a piece of the soul gets disconnected. In shamanism is known as soul hunting or soul retrieval.
Right.
Okay, so that means that a fraction or a piece of the soul that is connected to the experience that you're having at that moment gets disconnected from the self, and it's just lingering, and it will stay lingering for dozens of years or maybe an entire lifetime until it gets reconnected. So the disowned self, these are parts of the self that, so soul fragmentation can take place at any time during life, from pre-birth to just a few minutes before death. Now, the disowned self only happens during childhood. And this is the mystical child, the rebellious child, the adventurous child that wanted to express freely all of these things, but at some point was not okay with your family. And then you receive discipline for having these crazy ideas of knowing or having conversations with your unseen friends and things like that. So these are parts of ourselves that are going to come up to create a pattern of interference only because they want to be noticed. It's like they're saying, hey, hello, I'm here, take a look at me, acknowledge me so you can ask me to come back and reconnect with the self again. Beautiful and powerful work.
Wow.
But patterns of interference can also be severe arguments that we have with someone. One that is very, very big is lack of forgiveness. Okay, so many people in all of my classes, I ask, how many of you are experiencing or have issues of forgiveness, either forgiveness to yourself or others? And 95% of the people raise their hand. Well, when you're dealing with issues of forgiveness, and if they're very strong, these issues of forgiveness or lack of forgiveness, that will create a pattern of interference. If your personality is the personality of an angry individual, that anger can also overcome, the desire that you have at that moment to enter into the Akashic Records. Uh, uh, when you read the prayer, if your mind is not 100% in the prayer, if you're reading the prayer and your mind is thinking, well, I wonder what time I'm going to have to lunch, or I'm going to have a date tonight or whatever, then you are not fully present in reading the prayer. That can create a pattern of interference. So, but there are also external patterns of interference. So what I have just mentioned are internal patterns. External patterns can be the energy projection of another person. Maybe you got a promotion at work, and someone that has been working there longer than you now is very angry at you and throwing at you tremendous amount of anger and dislike and criticizing you with your coworkers and all that. Those energy projections can also create an external pattern of interference. I mean, I can keep just
Yeah, yeah.
talking about this, but I think that you get the point, the picture, that there are internal patterns of interference as well as external patterns of interference.
Yeah, just relating back to what you had said, based upon the fact that the soul loss or the fragmented soul is actually demanding its return into the body or into the soul to be whole and complete.
Correct.
And with that whole and completeness, then the body is ready to receive its information, so to speak.
Absolutely.
Okay, yeah,
I
because
think about this as how functional we can be with a very dysfunctional soul or a
so we have,
fragmented
yes.
soul. You know.
So in other words, it's making peace with our the less of ourselves, the parts that are fragmented, and
Is
incorporating it.
is making peace with that part of ourselves that allowed that soul peace to go away based on ignorance. In most cases, we're ignorant that when we have a big moment and we get really scared, or we're almost hit by a car, or
Yeah, yeah,
when someone puts a knife in front of you, at that moment of panic, a piece of your soul gets disconnected. And if you're not aware that something like that is taking place, it's like a balloon that begins to float away. So you have an opportunity to grab the balloon, pull it back, and once you have it in your hand, push it back into yourself. So then you don't have or experience soul fragmentation. But
Yeah.
most of us don't have that knowledge, that awareness. And when we have an experience like that, we just simply let it go, or we are too young and ignorant.
But however, sitting in the energy of the Akashic record, in the Akasha, does allow the higher mind to almost stimulate the lower mind into a place of receiving new information, or is it a decision of the soul, not a decision of the soul, so to speak, but in other words, it's the higher mind speaking to the lower mind in terms of receiving information and creating a change in pattern.
Yeah, you can cover it like that. You can say that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, when in terms of the Akashic records, there are like three aspects you've written about. You've spoken about the view, the meditation, and the action. Maybe you
Mhm.
can elaborate on that.
Okay. Uh, Before I answer that question, I think it might be a good idea to, since I mentioned, forgiveness, or, in the case of trauma, soul fragmentation, one of the most beautiful, and I mean beautiful aspects of the Akashic Records is that once we are inside of that pool of Akasha, we can swim from the present to the past in a very easy way. I have never found another method that allows me to do that. So, by being inside of the Akashic Records, we can bend time in a very simple and easy way. So, we can go from the present to the past, instead of doing it in a linear way, we can do it in a way in which we're collapsing time and folding it into one. So, what that means is that the you in the now, the individual that is conscious and doing the work in the now, we can go from the present to the past by bending time to the moment in which the trauma occurred or the abuse took place or anything like that. And then we can have a dialogue with ourselves back then. So the us in the now has a dialogue with the us back then, and then the us back then has the opportunity to either dialogue with another person if we cause harm to anyone else and ask for forgiveness, or we can dialogue with ourselves as that moment of trauma took place and bring the energy to balance. So the story can never change, but the imprint, which is the emotion that the story left behind, that is what will change. And once we take care of that imprint, that energetic imprint, we eliminate the karma completely. So now coming back to the view,
Yeah.
the view, when we open our Akashic records, is as if we walk into a space where we can have the crystal clarity to see and observe our lives in the way that we are living it. I call it going into the director's chair. Imagine that your life is, or anyone's lives, is a theatrical play, and we are the principal actor. The family is the rest of the actors or players, but we are also the director of that play. So during childhood, our parents gave us the script, had no other choice. And the script had the belief systems, the culture, they mold us in the way that they wanted us to think, etc. Is done. But once we become an adult, then we don't have the use of that script anymore, and we can write our own script. However, many times the script that we have in the present is still being dominated by the imprints, the mental imprints, and the beliefs from the past. So the view gives us the opportunity to go into the director's chair, and from the director's chair, being able to see with clarity the way that we are acting within that theatrical play, and to also to see how other individuals are acting within it as well. So then we have the choice to say, I don't like the way that this person is acting, or this person is toxic, and this person is bringing too much anger and negativity. So I'm going to give him a new script. It's your play, it's your life. So when you give them a new script, you say, hey, you're too toxic, too negative. If you don't want to, if you don't change, there's these are the elements of change. If you don't want to change, then I'm going to have to separate myself from you. And that is the healthy thing to do until they have the opportunity, maybe through your own process, to awake themselves. So the view can give us a clear vision of whatever is in front of us, and then how to make the right changes. Now, from the view, and this is a very simplified way of describing the view. So from the view, now I know this. Now I'm going to take it with my Akashic Records open to meditation. So meditation with our Akashic Records open becomes the laboratory of the self. That is where we go to work out and see all of the elements of what we receive from the view. So once we have the view and meditation fully integrated and we have the complete and total understanding, then we can take the next step, which is action. And the action is going to be based on what we receive from the view and meditation to take our lives, in the direction that we want, to know what are the obstacles, how to remove them, the people around that we need to befriend stronger, the ones that we need to let go of, etc., etc., etc. So if we do the view and meditation and we don't do action, might as well don't do anything. You'll be wasting our time. So the key is to do the view, to have the clarity, the meditation, so we can fully understanding and integrate it into how to take the next step, which is the action piece.
Yeah, it's interesting because many people find, I guess, the most difficult journey for us is to be able to reclaim our independence from families in terms of not feeling abandoned and not feeling like we have to follow the path or follow the herd, so to speak. I think you mentioned in terms of a karmic pool or dealing with people within a family of like 9 lifetimes, and how does that play into this whole cycle itself?
Uh, from the scientific point of view, which I love science because it comes to validate many of these concepts that we know or we're learning from a metaphysical point of view. From the scientific point of view, we know that every 9 generations, the gene pool breaks open. Imagine a cookie cutter, and within that cookie cutter are all the family members that you are moving from the first life to the second to the third, and all the karmic dynamics between every one of us. And it gets to a point in which by the time we arrive at our 9th lifetime, with that, with a group of souls, the genes that are within that karmic pool will break open. And those that are at the 9th lifetime will be able to jump out of that karmic pool and reconnect with another group of souls to begin a cycle of 9 lifetimes again. Okay, so many times, if you are very comfortable and happy in the family that you're with, and everything is great, maybe you're in your second, third, fourth lifetime, and everything is beautiful. Maybe you are in this group of souls with this family that are quite beautiful, and for 7 or 8 lifetimes, or from first to the 7 or 8, things have been just wonderful, and now things can be still wonderful, but sometimes, like for myself, the full recognition from the time I was very young, that for me was a struggle to belong to that family. So what is this struggle that I don't understand, But the struggle was that I wanted to get my freedom. So once I found that freedom, I liberate myself from the family. And once I arrived to have the full understanding of the Akashic records, and then later on, the understanding of these 9 lifetimes within the same karmic pool, made me have the clear understanding that it was me, or it is me, the one that is number one awake out of my family. I do have 2 children, so they're part of my family into the future, and they are in the process of waking up, But, once you are awake, then you can be the instrument that spirit can use to liberate those other individuals within that karmic pool and to balance the karma, which is really the most important thing. So the Akashic records gives us the opportunity to look at and review all of the karmic conditions, negative karmic conditions that we have created with anyone, but more specifically and far more important, with our family. Because once we arrive at the ninth lifetime, when we jump out to look for another family, another group of souls to reconnect with, we don't want to bring any karmic threads from the previous 9 lifetimes into a new, karmic pool that is going to begin all over again. So what that also does is, if we arrive at the ninth lifetime and we are fully aware of this type of information that I'm sharing with you right now,
Yeah.
what that is going to do is going to give us the opportunity to choose better parents, and not parents that we have karma with. If we have taken the time to balance and clean the karma with our parents from this lifetime, then we can be free and clear to have more conscious, awake, or enlightened parents in our next life.
Oh, that's very interesting. That was my next question, actually. So, and you lead weighted perfectly. So, in essence, when we see people who come from a balanced home, in some aspect, we can consider that of the inner work that was probably done in past lives through different generations.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people usually say that's such a happy family and a happy bunch of people together. I know from my own experience that I believe, as you said, you're speaking about your past. I am sure your parents had learned something from your experience. By you breaking free, you taught them something or no?
Many people come with very, very, very thick
Limited.
and strong patterns of resistance. Patterns of resistance. And when I told my mother that I was leaving the house, she said to me, "Why don't I buy you a 1958 Corvette like the neighbor?" And I said, "I don't want a Corvette." She said, "Why don't you go to Europe for 6 months?" I said, I don't want to go to Europe. I'm leaving." And she said to me, "If you leave now, I will not leave you any inheritance." I said, "Okay, I'll go create my own fortune." So 30 years later, she dies. Okay. And I don't, we don't have time for me to tell you the whole story, but basically, she did not leave me a nickel. Okay. And the way in which she died, basically right in front of me, in my arms, when I was talking to her in the most loving, kind way that I can, the imprint that she created for herself when I told her, I'm leaving and I don't need your money, she got so angry that unfortunately the rest of her life she could not liberate that anger. Even though I tried to talk with her in many different ways, she was just so shut down. But that is exactly the lifetime that she needed to live. And at the same time, I came to the understanding with the Akashic Records is that at a soul level, my mom and myself, even though she had a very, very troubled relationship with me, not me with her, that we had created an agreement at a soul level for her to sacrifice one lifetime for me to be able to receive the lessons that I received. Now, this agreement can only be created out of the most pure divine love. Because in truth, at a soul level, she didn't know, I didn't know that by doing something like this, that when this event happened, that instead of me getting really angry because she didn't leave me money and properties and whatever, that I went completely into compassion. I went completely into understanding and gratitude for the service and the sacrifice that she made for me, and a sacrifice like that can only be made out of the most pure divine love. But it was a huge risk for her soul as well as mine. But luckily, because of karma from previous lives, I have always been the way that I am. And when she died, instead of being trapped in the astral plane, and someone that is trapped in the astral plane can also create a big pattern of interference, okay? That instead of that, I start doing my inner work immediately to completely and totally liberate her soul from the space that she was in out of a space of gratitude and love. And then with that, full liberation for everyone.
That's truly inspiring.
I hope
Absolutely.
so.
Absolutely.
I
Absolutely.
hope so.
Yeah, yeah. The intensity and the energy behind it is powerful. Uh, yeah. Maybe you can just fill the audience in on your work that you do at Journey to the Heart and exactly what takes place there and what you do.
Um, Journey to the Heart is my company, and now it has grown to be Journey to the Heart International. It has been international for many years, but now there is a team of Journey to the Heart. So Journey to the Heart is not just me, but it's a group of conscious, mindful individuals that are committed to use the Akashic Records in every aspect of life. So Akashic Records and shamanism, business, any aspect of life. And so Journey to the Heart is a company that is dedicated to bring the best possible teachings to the minds and consciousness of people for their own spiritual and personal development so they can have a brighter, better life. Journey to the Heart has also transformed or has a new branch, which is, I'm super excited about this. And I know that this will be my life's work, the end of my life's work, which is Journey to the Heart of Children. And this nonprofit organization, a foundation here in the US, 501, whatever it is, that is going to start with our next trip to Peru next June. And we're going to go to a school and build a playground to remodel the kitchen, rebuild the kitchen. The insulation in the classrooms is terrible. So we're going to insulate the classrooms and do whatever it is that we can to bring a better life to children anywhere and everywhere in the planet.
That's beautiful. So
Thank
anybody can access the site at I guess journeytotheheart.com. Is that the
Yes,
site?
yes.
Okay. I'll put all that information down.
Thank you.
But I'd like to thank you very much, Ernesto, for spending this time with me. I'm honored. I'm inspired. I'm touched emotionally, and I have prior to actually the interview, watching your interviews, reading your book, and actually feeling the energy of your life's path, and also the photography work that you do is beautiful.
Thank you.
Uh,
That's my passion.
yeah, that's one of my passions as well. So I understand that feeling,
Yeah,
that
go to
expression.
Instagram and follow me.
I do.
Ernesto
So
Ortiz photos.
absolutely,
Thank you.
absolutely. So I want to thank you very much, and as I said, I'm honored, and hopefully we'll be able to continue conversations in the future. And thank you so much, Ernesto.
Adam, it's been my pleasure. And thank you so much for having me in your show.
You're welcome.
Okay.